been asking the question, what is it that happens when stillness and movement meet? And of course we cannot begin to answer that question until we know what stillness is. Nor can we answer this question when we have not an awareness of the workings of the laws of life. So the stories that have been told have been an endeavor to allow us to come to an awareness of how these laws work for us. No doubt you'll remember that old story, that Zen story about the shogun who was given a fierce tiger as a gift. And he was very proud of that tiger. He put it in an enclosure and he took all his visitors to see this magnificent wild creature. One day he had a great reception, and of course he took the whole group of them out to the compound where the tiger was kept, pacing up and down, fierce and wild. And amongst the guests there were his greatest samurai and Zen master, Hakuin. Whilst they were watching this wonderful, sleek creature, the shogun turned to his samurai and he said, "You are trained to be fearless. Prove this fearlessness to me." Well, of course, samurai swordsman could not refuse his shogun, so he marched resolutely over to the gate of the enclosure. And the gate was opened and he stepped inside. The tiger was pacing menacingly back and forth, eyeing him speculatively. But the samurai swordsman fixed his eyes on the eyes of the tiger with great focus and attention, not wavering his gaze for one moment. He advanced towards the great creature, and the tiger began to back away until it was back and could move no further against the wall of the compound. And then, just as the tiger, feeling cornered, was about to strike, the samurai swordsman took out his iron fan and whacked the tiger on the nose. The tiger was completely unsettled, which gave the samurai swordsman time to march out of the compound. Now the shogun and all those who were present were very impressed with this display of fearlessness. But then the shogun turned to the Zen master and he said, "I believe you too are trained to be fearless. Let's see what you can do." So the Zen master Hakuin went over to the gate of the enclosure, and when he stood at the opening, it was as though he were walking into a beautiful garden. His gaze seemed to take in not only the compound with the pacing tiger, but all those who were there standing around witnessing. And he stepped casually in to the enclosed area, advancing towards the tiger as it paced, looking at him, now quite agitated. But as he got closer and closer, the Zen master just very casually put out his hand. The tiger came over to sniff And then the tiger rolled over on its back and waited for Hakyuin to scratch his belly. Now, we know the rest of that story, so it need not be completed. But there's another little story, a Taoist story, about the man we know as Li Tzu. He was a great student of Lao Tzu, but he was also an archer of some renown. He'd studied archery under the great master Old Cheng. Now, one day Li Tzu wanted to demonstrate his ability with his bow and arrow to his friend. So he took his bow and placed a glass of water on his elbow, and he quickly fired off a shot which hit the bullseye, and very rapidly thereafter he shot off another 2 arrows which also hit the bullseye. There was no movement of the water in the glass on his arm. So he looked at his friend with a big smile on his face as if to say, "Didn't I do a good job?" But his friend was totally unimpressed and said to Li Tzu, "What you have demonstrated is your ability to focus and make aim. But you have not demonstrated the art of the archer. Come with me." So his friend led him to the edge of a great cliff. There was a drop of about 1,000 meters down. His friend marched over to the edge of the cliff, turned around, and stepped so that his heels were over the abyss. And he pointed at Li Tzu to say, "Come. If you can stand on the edge of this cliff and shoot your arrows as you did before, then I will say that you have mastered the art of archery." But Li Tzu was on the ground sweating. He'd almost fainted with fear, even to see his friend walk over to the edge of this abyss. The question that's asked that will enable us to understand the laws of life: what is the similarity or the difference between these 2 stories? What is our experience of this place of stillness, focus and attention and presence that's different to someone who has mastered the art of firing an arrow with a glass of water on their arm, or hitting a golf ball, or kicking a football? What is the difference now between them?
Difference between knowing the truth and living, being the truth.
Yes, but then we can ask, what is truth?
Present.
Yes.
Knowing about the present and living it, being there really.
Yes. But is this life? These situations of life? What's it like when you're standing before a friend, or you're standing before an enemy?
It's not in situ.
No. What is this thing about this stillness that we've arrived at? What is the difference in this story of the samurai swordsman who was fearless and the Zen master who was fearless? What was the difference? Eyeballing, focus, attention, presence. Sorry?
One's coming from ego.
Yes. Yes, and power and crystallization. And another thing, exclusion. The samurai swordsman entering that arena, and his focus and attention and his ability comes from his being able to shut out all extraneous matter. Only see the enemy. Only. Isn't that the way they're trained? To aim for the heart on the... And what about the Zen master? What was the difference?
He's embracing everything.
Absolutely. What's the difference between us then and us now? And this stillness and focus and attention and presence. How has it changed?
It applies in life,
Yes.
in living,
Yes.
in just life situation.
Yes.
And giving up control.
Absolutely. Giving up the need to conquer. Making life combative, where we need to be like a sentry at every moment, alert, in case someone's going to attack us from somewhere. Isn't it? And now? So, when you talk about focus and attention and presence, you can say that in a way both had them, but they're totally different. How is this working? So where is our focus and our attention and our presence in these circumstances? So it asks another question. What's our relationship with life now? If we're not looking out there at it to say, yes, what can I conquer today? Or everyone we meet kind of have, you can see from people's body language, you know, covering themselves. And we don't. What's our relationship with life? Tiger.
Comes more from a sense of being one with all, being part of all.
Yes. So where is fearlessness needed? Not needed.
Because there's no resistance.
There's no resistance. And then there's no reaction, is there? So can we, from this, begin to get a gleaning of this law, the laws that work when we become still? We've experienced what it feels like. We become one with everything. We lose our sense of self.
Separation. Separation.
Yes, none. So at least in this situation, we can get to know how it works. And when we do, we can answer this question. What happens when stillness and movement meet? What happens when life comes in now and enters into this place of still presence? We have to answer these questions to know what